Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here today. I am with my friend, John Burgos, who I absolutely adore. John has been, soul family to me. He's been a dear friend. He's helped with my career. We've had wonderful conversations together with his community. And I can't wait to interview him to find out more about him as a person, because I think we know a lot about him as a host of Beyond the Ordinary, but not as much, some of us anyways, as a person. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Welcome, John. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here with you. It's just my heart's just like just vibrating with happiness.
Awesome. Awesome. So I doubt there's many people that would be watching this that at this point that don't know who you are.
Oh, that's
But
sweet. I
just
don't
in
know about
case,
that, but
why don't you explain what you do?
my interpretation of that's been changing, but it's a lot of people know me from Beyond the Ordinary show. So I've been hosting a telesummit platform. People call them podcasts now, where I interview the most amazing transformational teachers from all over the world. And I tend to focus on teachers who function on the left of woo, right? And like really woo woo, like woo woo squared. Um, but I love having these conversations with channels. I love being able in this physical body that we can raise each other up to those frequencies and bring that back down for ourselves and then be able to share from that overflow from anybody who's listening. Um, so that's been a big part of my passion for the last 11 years is running beyond the ordinary.
Yes. So how did it come to you? How did you end up being the host of Beyond the Ordinary?
It's I worked corporate for a long time, for a good 18 years, and I transitioned from corporate when someone gave me an opportunity to take over a franchise of an insurance business, and that company was basically gifted to me, which is amazing. Um, and I ran that for a little bit, but I knew that there had to be something more. Even when I worked corporate, I always had like these side businesses that I were building, and they would stick for a little bit, but not quite. And when I was running that franchise, I was like, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else. And sure enough, as I asked in earnest, the teacher showed up, or the guide for that showed up. And when she did, I was taken through some beautiful initiations that I call crack the dam open for me, where the flood of my relationship to otherly realms became so undeniable that I had to just start walking with it. And when I did, my whole life shifted. But when that happened, I always had prophetic dreams growing up. It's like I would dream about something would happen. I would get a message about something and it would turn out to be true a week later or 18 years later. But it would always, especially pinnacle ones that happened in my life. Um, and I always had access to that. But it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And what do I do with this? Right. Thank you very much. But when the dam cracked open, it was undeniable. I started seeing auras around plants, animals, people. I started having guides coming to me in dream teaching guides, showing me how to work with energy, just recalibrating. I had dreams, not really dreams, activations while I was sleeping where my chakras were being replaced within my body. It was wild and so much fun. It's like, okay, there's something happening here. And the reflection of that started manifesting in my outside reality. Different opportunities started coming in. What was no longer resonant felt really heavy and non-resonant. It felt like I was carrying, tons of bricks in a backpack. And that was the alignment that was taking place in my life. When, again, this teacher showed up, she quickly invited me to help her build her platform. She was teaching, she was doing all these other things. She wanted to teach me her modality, and I said yes to it immediately. I sold my franchise, and the sale of that franchise helped to support part of the gap of income as I was working with her. And we worked together, and her work was absolutely amazing. But after about 3 years of working together, I knew that I had to branch out on my own, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was inspired, and she had suggested it after the inspiration had come in as well. It's like, why don't you start your own interview platform? Because we had seen a couple of other people and she had been interviewed on similar platforms to Beyond the Ordinary. It's like, I think I'm supposed to do that. And so I set up to build the platform, and I did it in a place where my money had just run out from the sale of my business. Again, 3 years where I was supplementing income. I didn't really know what I was going to do next, but I knew I needed to leave being the support person for someone and start stepping into my own. Um, so I kind of stepped into it blindly. And the last paycheck that I received from the company was December of 2012. Um, And I just kept asking my guys, all right, what am I doing next? And how do I do it? And please provide the income because it's going to run out in a few months. When the inspiration came in to finally start Beyond the Ordinary show, I probably had about a month and a half worth of reserves in my bank account and credit card simultaneously. And then after that, I didn't know what I was going to do. Move in with my parents, tell my ex-wife that child support was going to have to wait for a while, and get a job at Starbucks or something. I didn't know. I didn't know. But when the inspiration came, my guides were really clear. Start the show, invite these type of people. We'll provide everything. And what should have taken me 6 months to establish took me 6 weeks.
Wow.
The second I launched it, it provided all the income that I needed and then so much more. It just went from zero to like 100 in no time. I was reaching out to speakers. I didn't have an audience. I didn't have any type of platform which just to really start this with. A friend let me borrow their email list. My mentor at the time let me borrow her email list, which created a very small email list that wasn't nurtured to me, really. Um, and from that, I'd reach out to speakers like big names. It's like, hey, I'm starting the show, and they didn't know who I was. And they're like, who are you? What are you doing? What audience do you have? And I was brutally honest. And I kept hearing over and over, we don't know why, but we're going to say yes. We
Mm.
don't know why, but yes. We don't know why, but yes, over and over and over. Um, I thought I was going to run the platform, the interview series for maybe three different series, which were ran maybe 6 to 9 months, and then go on to whatever was next. And it just kept growing and kept expanding. And here we are. We just celebrated 11 years this last week with Beyond the
Wow.
Ordinary.
Oh, congratulations. That's so
Yeah.
big.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
remember when you sent me the invite because, you do get invites and I wasn't very well known at that time. I was more locally known. I wasn't, super known worldwide. And I remember seeing the invite and I remember hitting the website and I think the first person I saw was Matt Kahn. And I went,
Mm.
oh my gosh, this is real. I was so excited. And I'll never forget, you said, we have to get the world to know about you.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful for that. And I love how you find people that maybe other people don't know about and give them that opportunity. That's one of the things that I just love about you. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
it's really,
welcome. Oh my God, my honor.
yeah, it's so fun. So you had this interest in spirituality before this came, or you were kind of living it, weren't you? It was just happening to you. That must have been very uncomfortable trying to live in a corporate world and having this whole expansive secret world going on inside of you.
Yeah, well, I can't even say a secret. It was repressed because I
Mm,
was trying to fit into the other world. I was extremely sensitive,
yeah.
extremely empathic. Um, and I think that made people in my surroundings uncomfortable in certain ways, like you're too sensitive, you feel too much and all that. But I could feel what was really happening underneath the surface. But then that also butted heads with the way that I grew up with a lot of abandonment fears and codependency and all that. So it was this alchemy that was happening to initiate me into a different way of navigating reality. And it was necessary. I had beautiful moments in my life. Um, but the misunderstanding, misinterpretation of my sensitivity and where that came from, and wondering why I didn't quite fit in, even though I did, but I didn't. It was so confusing. And so no matter where I always felt like an outsider and alone.
Do you
Always.
still feel that way?
Oh God, no.
No.
Now, sometimes it comes up when I'm around certain environments and different circumstances. I can feel that the resonance is different and that perhaps we're not speaking the same language. Sometimes I don't feel understood
Mhm.
around certain circles.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't blame a lot of the people. So sometimes what I speak is Venusian and they're speaking English. It's
Yeah.
the way it comes, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, and it's an invitation for me, not to like, oh, I get to be up here and I have this understanding. The initiation there is like, I have to learn. And if I really choose to be in a relational dynamic, whether it's in a group dynamic or one-on-one with someone, in that intimacy, then of course I have to learn to speak the language. And we get to learn each other's language along the way. But it's been an important lesson for me over the years, especially the most recent years.
Yeah, it's so important to meet people where they are, or else there's
Yeah,
just no connection point. And unfortunately for us, we can span more vibrational spaces sometimes than other people. So
right.
that's, we have to meet them where they are. So I totally get that. Here's an interesting question. Do you ever get nervous before a show?
Sometimes, not very often, but sometimes. Um, Sometimes I would get into a little bit of comparison with some of the speakers that were coming. Oh my God, they have a big audience and people love them and they receive them a particular way. And how am I going to show up and what am I going to say? Or it's how am I going to be received? Right?
Mm,
Or can am I asking the right question? Because I don't, my preparation for this show isn't something that is intense for me. I like to I like to have an experience with each of the speakers because I can feel a resonance or a dissonance with our compatibility, if you will, energetically, and what I want to represent on the Beyond the Ordinary platform. And if it's not in accordance with that or feels off, then it's just not the right place.
mhm.
Um, and honor to anybody for where they may be. But again, I'm very particular as to who I invite into our house, and it's our house. Um, but yeah, there's been times where I've gotten caught into some comparison and then it would just kind of come through, but it would relax quickly. And it rarely has happened, but I definitely have had it. Yeah.
Yeah. I protect myself from that. I don't
Mhm.
watch other people's stuff because the only way that I can really, I just know I'm going to make myself crazy and I'll think, oh, I'm not as wise, or I'll pick myself apart if I see somebody else and compare. And the only way that I've ever been able to really keep my stuff pure is to just do me.
Yeah.
And I do
Well,
that by not looking at other people.
the wisdom part's really interesting because as far as the wisdom part or the articulation of it, I get into it just happens naturally. I don't try. There's like a space that's a hybrid between being and human being John and then channeled
Yes.
information. And so the conversation, whatever needs to come through, comes through. I remember when I did my first show, the first time we launched Beyond the Ordinary show. Um, my first interview was a big name in personal development. Some of y'all may know him or not, Bob Proctor. And he agreed to be on the show and promote. And it's like, oh wow. And he's very grandfatherly. He kind of has an attitude also. It's like, okay, how am I gonna be? And it's like in my first show. And he's promoted my show to his list of 500,000 people that they agreed to completely show up. I was like, okay, what do I do? How do I show up? And I was nervous. And out of nowhere, this beautiful prayer came to me that's part of A Course in Miracle. And that first season, I recited that prayer right before every call. And the second I recited that prayer, something shifted in me. I can speak on stage all of a sudden, not have a worry. I love being on stage now. Like put me in front of a camera, in front of an audience, and let me go. Amazing. But something about that invocation set that part of me free that was so nervous. And it goes like this if I can recite it. Um, I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent he who sent me. I don't have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I'm content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he's there with me. And I will be healed as I allow myself to teach others to heal. And just that prayer,
Wow, that's
it
beautiful.
released something in me. And it took me into this place where it's not about me. It's really not about me. And I think that's why the show has had the success that it's had. I learned very quickly that I wasn't doing the show to create numbers or to have speakers who would sell a lot of products and even all that's wonderful. Um, Whenever I did that a few times because it was recommended, it failed miserably, especially with big, I'd have these people hugely successful, they do all these, and then it falls so flat. And my guys is like, that's not where we're taking you. And I listened very quickly. And it aligned very quickly. So I'm aware of my lane and what a wonderful opportunity it is for me and those that I get to share it with.
I've noticed more over the last few years that you're offering more of your own stuff on the show.
Mm.
And I love that. Can you talk about kind of the progression towards that?
Yeah, it's the first 7 years of the show is like it's all about the speakers and what the speakers are doing and let me represent them and let's bring audience because the intention of the show is really I had learned about a world that I didn't know existed. This esoteric world and spirit realm and these processes of forgiveness and reentrainment of the mind and connecting to guides in ways that I'd never been taught. And nobody in my community was aware of that type of work. Really, nobody. Um, and so I just wanted to share this world with as many people as I could. It's like, oh my God, my life has shifted so much. Everybody needs to know about this. Everybody needs to know about this. And that was part of the inspiration. That wasn't part of the inspiration. That was 90% of the inspiration for starting the show was that enthusiasm
Mm.
of wanting to share what was available. Um, I forgot your question. Remind me, I went off on a tangent.
I
That
asked,
happens to me.
I said that I noticed that you're doing more shows that are your own offerings and
Right.
that came to be. Yeah.
And so again, I was so focused on the speakers, the speakers, the speakers, the speakers, the speakers, the speakers, and it was wonderful. But I kept hearing you, but you're leaving yourself out. You're bringing something to the table. You're growing also. You have something to share. And I share a little bit here and there on the shows, but it was really the focus on who we invited as guests. And I wanted to respect that space as well.
Mhm.
Um, but then I kept hearing very clearly, it's time for you to get out there and start sharing from you. It's time for you to teach as well. It's there's wonderful teachers that you have, but you can meet them equally and you're teaching each other. And there's certain things that they're not aware that you can teach and vice versa. So um, I was invited by my guide to start offering private sessions again. I hadn't done private sessions in 7 years prior because I was focused on the show only, and that was it. And when my guides came in, it's like, okay, I can do private sessions, but it's an expense on my time and an energy, and it's a lot. So I know I can offer it, but it's going to carry a certain price tag, and then that's going to leave other people out from the community. So if I'm going to do that, let me start a membership platform where anybody wants to work with me directly. Well, it's $39 a month instead of $2,500 a month
Mm.
or
Mhm.
$5,000 a month, depending if we're doing entrepreneurial or whatever. So I found a good balance in that.
Mm.
And I take on clients every once in a while. Again, not a lot, maybe three, four clients a month on a retainer basis, max. Um, I launched the membership and we've been doing the membership now for 7 years, which meets every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. And I go on and I channel, we do Q&A. There's just a lot of energy. There's a lot of just acclimation and attunement that we do there. I'm guiding people now. I'm inviting people to immersions at my house here in Hawaii. Um, and there's limited spaces available for those throughout the year. And then guiding people. I'm also guided to take people into sacred sites now, where we're accessing from the level of consciousness where we are now, inviting a very pristine field and unlocking what we can in vibrational accord when we show up in a container where we elevate each other. So that's a new project that's coming through, but it's I've been called more and more to be more direct with my transmission and what's
Mm,
coming through me for whoever may benefit from it.
yeah. I'm just curious, have you ever had somebody on your show that said something that you absolutely did not agree with?
Yeah,
But if you
absolutely.
did, how did you handle that?
I challenged the response. I said, but
Okay.
what of this? But what if it's this other thing? Or ask for a deeper interpretation. Or I would take what they shared and elevate it into a place that I thought was more of service. A couple of things that's happened a few times, not as much now. Um, but we get into Q&A sections on the show and people can ask like questions on the show so they can raise their hand and we call on people live. Um, And sometimes the speaker would guide someone through an answer, but it wasn't complete, and I could feel it.
Mhm.
And I could never really leave someone incomplete. Now, if someone needs to go into a long process and they keep asking questions, and there's a lot of that, that's not the place for it. But when you can feel when someone's hanging on the ledge energetically after someone's given them a transmission, but it's not landing or it wasn't complete, then I do go in and complete. I have no problems doing that. And it's done very respectfully. It's not to take anything away. But again, my service is, yes, we want to invite the speakers to be known by a larger community, which is wonderful, but it's also a privilege for the speaker to be in our community. And my service is first and foremost to our community.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And you've done that with me before, where I've answered a question and then you added on to it, and I never looked at it as anything other than adding on.
We get to play. Yeah.
Yeah,
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 we
it's
get to play.
awesome.
Sometimes we're just co-creating. It's like, "Ah, and this is there, and this is there. And I'm also open, but you should look at this. And how about you interpret it this way? So it's not about being right. It's about really how we're just guiding each other and serving each other and loving each other home, right?
Yeah, leapfrogging. I love
Yeah,
that.
there you go. Love that.
Yeah. If you weren't doing what you do now, what do you think you would be doing?
That's a great question. Oh, I can't imagine not doing what I'm doing. I can't even imagine it. But something that I do, I love organizing and beautifying things and all that. So I'd be some type of designer, whether it's an architectural designer, not just the construction, but the beautification of it. Like a high level interior designer, I can create amazing websites and all that, like all those aesthetics. I have a Taurus North node. So the energy in my Taurus North node, if you all know anything about astrology, it's all about luxury and texture and feeling and all that. So absolutely, it'd be some aspect of that.
If you hadn't had a spiritual awakening, where do you think you'd be?
Oh, I definitely always had the entrepreneurial energy. So I know that I would have started my own business and it would have done okay. Um, I don't know how to answer that. That world doesn't exist for me.
Yeah. Well, you're
Yeah.
so obviously where you're meant to be. It's almost
Yeah, that world
on
doesn't
that
exist for me.
timeline.
Yeah.
I know that you're very sensitive and empathic and that you feel energy, but I'm wondering if you are affected by things like solar flares or energies like that. And if so, how do you move through them with grace and ease? Hopefully.
Yeah. So that's a great question. And I want to answer that in a couple of different ways. Um, when I really start shifting, and again, when the dam broke open again years ago, um, That's when we were going from pagers to Blackberries, remember those, to iPhones. Um, and there was something different in the way that our body was getting used to the emission from the towers and the EMF energy.
Mm.
And I went through a very sensitive time where I couldn't hold the phone up to my head for longer than 10 seconds without getting splitting headaches. Um, it was intense. My ears would start burning red, and I'd switch phones and all these other things. And it was a practice of raising my frequency above the frequency of the EMF. I was transitioning through something that I had to transition through. And I became aware that I was navigating just, I'll call it an sensory process, energetic attunement process that had to raise above that frequency so I wasn't affected by it in the same way anymore. And that took me a good 8 months, but it wasn't about trying to get rid of the EMF and dealing with the problem, even though it's like that's what was happening. It was more as like I'm aware that I'm navigating something and going to a new place and allow myself to rise. So I wasn't at war with EMF because that could have been a distraction.
Right.
I was really following this organic process that was happening as I focused my attentions and presence on how I was choosing to show up for what was available for me in my own personal evolution. And in that, something shifted dramatically where it doesn't affect me. And it rarely affects me, the EMF in that way, and not
Wow.
even close. Solar flares and shifts of energy and all that, definitely I honor my body. If it needs to rest, it needs to rest. If I need to eat sugar, I eat sugar. If I need sleep, I sleep. If I have a headache, it's like, okay, here you are. Um, and I can call it solar flares, and yeah, that's what it is. Um, I'm also aware that it's part of the evolution that I'm going through, that my body's attuning to something as well. So the best I can do is listen and to try to take care of myself the best I can rather than going, oh my God, the freaking solar flares. Let me be vigilant. Let me prepare for the next time it's going to happen. Again, when we become so vigilant in preparing for something negative, we can't really show up in the wave in the same way that's carrying us through against something that's evolving in us. So I try to focus more on that than on the cause of what's bringing it in, unless I can do something specifically about it. But with solar flares, I can drink water, I can go in nature, I can jump in the ocean or whatever. And definitely that'll those are things that I do, but I don't try to become so preventative of something that I really can't control.
Yeah, right answer. What frustrates you about being human?
Oh my God. Not sleeping well sometimes. Like, oh, those nights where you just can't sleep and all that. Even though I don't suffer lack of sleep, it's like, okay, I slept 3 hours last night. Okay, so what? My body will catch up. Um, but there's such a difference when you sleep so peacefully and it's just so nice and all that. So, you know, that's, I can't say it's a frustration. I think my ego is probably my ego in the sense where limiting thoughts and belief systems come in and where I judge myself and I bring myself down.
Okay.
I think this place of being human that makes me think that I'm not enough or I don't fit in or I'm not understood. That's painful. It's painful psychologically, emotionally. Um, and I know it's also part of the gift of why we're here that we get to experience all these emotions.
Right.
Um, but it's tender. Yeah, it's tender.
What do you consider your superpower?
My superpower. Do I have a superpower? Um, well, I actually have several superpowers, and this is in all seriousness. Uh, I know I'm here to activate potential in people that I'm with. I see it. I
Mhm.
see it. I can see different thread lines somehow, and I can tune into that's what wants to be awakened. If you're up for it, if you're in agreement with it, this is what's coming through. And so a combination between how intuitive, empathic, the channel that comes through, and the not needing to have an income for the people that I work with, an outcome for the people that I work with, I think really provides me such a clear way of relating and interpreting energy and thought patterns and action taking abilities, that it really serves those that I get to work with. And I know in resonance also, I know that I feel it. I feel it in my home. It's like anybody that walks into any house that I've ever lived, it's like, oh my God, this place feels like an oasis. It feels like a temple. And so that capacity to beautify, if you will, an energetic space because of somehow of a consciousness and the way of being that I hold, that's definitely a gift that I consider one of my greatest superpowers.
Oh, it's so awesome.
Hmm.
What trait do you most admire in others?
Ooh. Oh, it's funny. The first word that I get is generosity, but I think that's just because I tend to be very generous in nature. And
Mm,
so it's a reflection. I really love when people can just love authentically, when like that open-hearted space that just invites you in and you can just melt into that person. You feel at home, you feel the integrity, um, and the high vibrational love in that. That's something that I hope to engender more of in myself to learn of.
what would you like to be remembered for?
Mm. For any love that I may have allowed someone else to feel by being in my presence or being received by receiving me. If someone can remember that, really carry that forward, it's funny because and I say this a lot, and different people that I coach or different things that come in when people start getting into limitations around, but we broke up and this had to finish and all that. And I go, yeah, but there was love there.
Mhm.
There was love there. And once love is given, it can never be taken away, ever. It only expands, it becomes exponential. We may shut it down with our thoughts that, oh, we need to siphon it, or no, we need to protect ourselves, or set up boundaries, or they took their love away, so I'm taking mine. But all that's baloney.
Mhm.
Once love is giving, it can't help but to grow.
Right.
And that I know that with absolute truth.
Okay. Awesome. Who has had the greatest impact on your life?
My daughters,
Mm,
easily, my daughters. They have cracked my heart open and they have forced me to see myself in ways that other ways I wouldn't have seen. Um, they have made me challenge my beliefs of what it meant to show up, um, and be daring enough to navigate beyond those beliefs to create new opportunities. And because of that, where there could have been seemingly separation, it actually brought us closer. Where there could have been misunderstanding, it brought in actually greater intimacy. So yeah, they're definitely my biggest teachers.
what has been the most pleasant surprise of your journey?
Oh my, most pleasant surprise. Oh my God, there's been so many. Um, I know I got to certain points with Beyond the Ordinary show, and it's all reflective. It's like one relates to the other another. So the easiest one that I can remember right now was with BTO. It was about 3 years into running the show. And I thought I created the show because I wanted everybody to have available these amazing tools that were showing up for me. It's like I created it. We get to share it with the audience. The speakers are getting to grow. Great. I get a great income. But the intention is really this. I created this because I wanted to give. And I got to a place where I quickly realized it was very humbling, so humbling, that I realized that I created this show for me. the whole time, the all of it. The speakers who came on, the audience that showed up, everything was really where I created a place where I can be received, that I could feel understood, um, that I can create a playground to invite other people to play with me and they would show up. Um, that I could receive love and be loved and express my love in a way. And the humility that came in from understanding of how I created it, but that my guides, if you will, or the divinity made all this available for me
Mm.
was so beautiful to really become aware and to know that without any doubt whatsoever.
What have you found to be the most challenging part of your journey? You personally, your most challenging theme?
Learning how to trust myself and my sovereignty along the path is certainly part of the journey, and that still comes in. I trust how I show up, and I believe I'm very clear in how I show up in a lot of different ways. And I also trust things to articulate in divine timing sometimes because there's a wisdom in allowing things to unfold as well. Um, I grew up in a household where there was a lot of financial scarcity.
Mm.
Um, so having a relationship with finances and with money where it's not so turbulent, what sounds like up and down. Well, we lived in mostly down, by the way. We grew up, but there was so much abundance in the family dynamic in different ways also. Um, Never felt like I lacked for anything, but I could definitely feel the pressures around my family regarding finances and thoughts that I had of how I could be supported or how I can support myself. And so that's still a learning curve on trusting source through the financial conduit.
Mm.
And it's something that I'm still learning. And I've grown tremendously through personal, intimate relationships. So those are places where I really had the opportunity to heal through the combination of a dramatic codependence, but also of a runner mentality also that's the opposite side of the codependence and navigating both of those and seeing how the reflection of the abandonment by another is really the abandonment of self and navigating that and having relationship with that and choosing to show up. And as I choose to show up for myself, I can't help but to show up more authentically for others. And as I show up in relational dynamics to that as well, oh, overcoming my need to run, then that sense of security and safety and authentic relating winds up manifesting in my nervous system and also in the way that I can connect to guides in ways that I couldn't before. Because if I was in and out in my own reality, I was in and out of here in different ways.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
There's so many parallels because that's really the thing that I've learned most probably over the last 9 years is learning how to stay still when I desperately want to run.
Oh, yeah. I
That's a hard one.
know.
If you knew everything you've gone through in your life so far beforehand, would you still choose it?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
What do you wish you knew before you started your spiritual journey or your service?
Such a great question. How much I can really trust in myself and in others to show up, and how I can trust synchronicities and guidance to really bring in a flow of alignments and instead of trying so hard to make certain things work
Hmm.
or fit, to allow grace to really take over the wheel of that. And I'm learning that more and more. And the profundity of that, again, the intimacy that evokes with divinity and the guides that I channel or come in, but how it shows up in my life also is like, God, life's so much easier that way. And it's less egoly driven. I'm leaking less energy. I'm not as drained, and I'm learning to trust um, just how amazingly beautiful this world is and the support that's in it.
Oh, that's beautiful. What is your favorite affirmation, if you have one?
My favorite affirmation. Um, oh, there's different ones. And it's actually one of the process that I work through providing these phrases that really work to repattern the neural pathways when we have intimacy with it and go deep. Um, I think one that I use a lot that just seems to come through is let go and let God. Yeah.
So we know that you do all of this spiritual stuff and we know your work, but what does John Burgos do for fun? What do you do for fun?
Oh my God. Lately, it seems like resting seems to be the fun thing to do. Uh, I love to travel. I love going, and I'm guided to places. It's like, I don't know, go to Turkey, go to this other place, go to Shasta, go to Sedona, go down to Mexico, go down to, it's like, it's just, I get called and I go. It's again, if we get into astrology, I've got the Sagittarius rising aspect of me, and that's the traveler that needs to go adventure and gets it still. I love going to new places and exploring and turning left when I'm supposed to turn right to see what's available around the corner. So just open to that. And I'm a psychic reading junkie. I love getting readings. What can I
Oh,
say?
what do you wish people understood about you, about who you are and what you do? What do you wish people understood more?
That's really interesting because that gets into a couple of places that my ego might want to get into. Um, but it's also part of my growth edge. It's what I wish they understood more. My egoic self is like, I wish people really understood how much work it takes, like the effort, the investment that we put in. And I know people appreciate it, so it doesn't have to be spoken about. Um, I don't think I wish they knew it. It's just sometimes I'll be around certain communities and I'll hear about how wonderful this person is and what they're bringing through for other people's transformation and all this other stuff. And like, and they're talking to me about the very same things that I talk about and teach, but they're reflecting on how wonderful all these other people are, but they don't really know who I am in these social circles. It's like,
Yes.
and it's like, well, I can give you my perspective on that, but you're not asking, so let me hold it. And there's the humility. There's that part of me that wants to come out and just like, and that aspect of me that knows I have to step back. And so I see a lot of times like the Matt Cons of the world, like all these people know who he is, and oh my God, Matt Con's speaking. Let us pause. And not that I'm expecting that.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, I put myself in a position where I'm interviewing these people rather than being the interviewee. So it's it's egoic for the part of me that wants to fit in different ways and wants to be seen and wants to be heard. Um, but at the same time, I'm so beautifully seen and heard exactly where I'm supposed to. So it's such a navigation.
Yeah. This is random. Who's your favorite band?
My favorite band. Oh my God, do I have a favorite band? That is random. I love that. Um,
I'm making you think so hard today.
you are making me think hard. It's funny. It's like on a date, someone might ask, "What's your favorite type of music?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And my answer to that is always the same. It's like I love good music.
Yeah.
Like there's good jazz, there's good classical, there's good rap, there's good country. Like I love there's good Lebanese music, there's good salsa music, there's good everything. I just love good music. Um, yeah, so it's hard to put my finger on who my favorite band is. I just love, freaking love. soulful expressions, whether it's fun, vibrant, high energy, or like super like deep, um, thoughtful, contemplating music. It's just it's good music is good music.
I- What is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, it's the biggest pet peeve.
This is my favorite question, by the way, to ask everybody because I want people to know that we're human beings and we still get irritated by things sometimes, you know?
You know, scratching the things that the plates with like the forks and all that, that
Oh my
sound, like that
God, me
chalkboard sound.
too.
Oh, that's so cringy.
Oh,
Um, Rudeness is a pet peeve.
oh
When
yeah.
people are rude to one another, I just like, yeah, that makes me boil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you think Atlantis is?
In another dimensional realm.
Okay.
Um, and at the same time, so I had an amazing experience in Bimini,
You tell.
off 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 the coast of southern coast of the US, you know, up in the Bahamas and Bermuda. Um, but an experience of going on a boat out there, and it was raining, and then we were on the boat. We were going down the road to Atlantis, this underwater like road that nobody knows how it got there supposedly. Um, and everybody that we were going back to the island, and everybody was underneath because it was pouring down rain and it was cold outside. And I heard my guides go upstairs and go stand next to the captain in the pouring rain. I was like, okay. And I went up there and I started grounding in to the bottom of the ocean.
Oh,
And as I was grounding in, all of a sudden, any feelings of nausea that I had completely disappeared. And I was like, wow. And and I'm very sensitive. I get seasick a lot, or I used to. Actually, from that trip, it changed. But I started connecting into the ground and I started connecting with crystals, like a huge crystal deposit in that ocean floor. And it made me curious if Atlantis spanned into the lands, but I felt Atlantis simultaneously when I was in the Azores off the coast of Portugal
hmm.
last year as well. So I'm curious as well, but I felt the aspects of that in the Atlantean Ocean in those places.
Wow. What would you do if I gave you $1 million? No judge, no
I'd
judge.
invested in I'd invested in the platform. I'd grow it. I'd see what I can do to get more audience in so that we can have a bigger party on the shows. Um, and a part of me would it's I haven't purchased property in a long time. It's been a little while since I've owned real estate. Would I invested in I might buy some land here in Hawaii and just use it for that and open up that a temple space for other people. Um, but most likely I'd probably put it in the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the one thing you want to make sure the new Earth has?
Hmm. Well, there's an engendering that's possible of a prosperity consciousness that I think we're all accessing. But I think it's vital um, for an educational system, for our children, for my grandson, for my grandchildren, for the kids that are here to really support their gifts and the way they're coming in. Um, it's yeah, I think so much of the suffering that you and I have in our generations is that we're taught to separate from ourselves and we don't know who we are because we're taught that who we are isn't right.
Yeah.
And so to bring that back in a very conscious and direct way for all of humanity is, I believe, is so important. And adults learn from kids. So we get to, the children remind us just how powerful teachers that they are.
Well, that's going to
Yeah.
segue into this question beautifully, which is, if you had the opportunity to address a group of first graders, what would your message to them be?
To play, to
Oh,
play, play, and play some more, and to keep playing. It's to really engender that energy of that play and the innocence. But of course, how do you say it to a first grader? It's just make sure that you include play in every day of your life for the rest of your life.
yes. What would you ask Jesus?
Oh, hmm. What it must feel like to really allow yourself to know that you are the Son of God, that you are God within you.
Wow, I'd love to hear him answer that.
Yeah. And how bad did it hurt being nailed up on the cross? My God, right?
I don't even want to
Like
know about
how'd you do that and volunteer for that?
it.
What?
How do you start your day? Do you have like some people meditate before they get out of bed or, say some affirmations or whatever. How do you start your day? A regular
It,
old day.
it varies. I go through different routines. So for the longest time, my days, I'd get up in the morning and I'd go to the gym, and the gym would be a meditation slash, like, working out would be a meditation for me.
Mhm.
Um, but my body started shifting and I started going through different things. And so my routines have changed. Sometimes I'll wake up and we'll have tea ceremony here in the house and sit in tea and pour and sit in silence, which is beautiful. Um, Over the last few months, there's so much energy and creative energy and projects coming in that I'm waking up and getting to work. Um, and with my beautiful partner, we coordinate. Sometimes it's just waking up and just enjoying each other
Yeah, yeah.
uh, before we get up, which is so beautiful. But it's the importance of me moving my energy physically is definitely a routine that keeps calling to me. So even though I may leave it for a little bit of time, it calls back because it's regenerative. And from the working out, I would go from there, and then I would go sit in a meditation for 15 minutes and sit in silence after I've sat with my body. Then I was giving that investment to my spirit. And
Mhm.
from there, the creation would just, it seems like I would have so much time in my day after I did those two things to do everything else that I needed to do and all the energy to do it. So those are beautiful practices that I want to get back to.
Mm. What makes you laugh?
Oh my God. Questions like this make me laugh. Um, Being silly makes me laugh. I just I just like being in the innocence. It's stupid jokes make me laugh. Um, I like laughing at myself. I think I'm the funniest person ever to myself, even though nobody else might laugh. Um, I just like sitting across and just being irreverent with my friends and joking about things and just, again, just the silliness. Um, yeah, I just think lots of things are funny.
I love the idea of being irreverent with your friends. That's lots of fun.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
What is your favorite place on the planet so far? Because I know that you've traveled a lot. If you had to just choose one, where would it be?
I love Hawaii. I love where I live. I can live anywhere in the world, and I've certainly have explored that. But this island keeps calling me back, and every time I land here, I just feel like I melt into her bosom.
Mm.
And then it becomes this regeneration kind of station for me. And I get called to travel again, but I would have to say that this is probably my favorite place on earth. Yeah.
So what are you most excited about right now?
I have a project of traveling and filming at sacred sites
Oh,
that I'm working on now. Our first, we're gonna announce it in the next 10 days. Um, okay, so I'll share more about this.
okay.
So I was just for over 10 years. I've known that I was supposed to like be on a TV show. I was like, there's a TV show, there's something on TV coming. I don't know what it is. And I've kind of like dipped my toes in trying to manifest certain things and it hasn't happened. It's like, well, maybe it's a YouTube channel. It's like, no, that's not it. Last September, I got together with a friend in Sedona and we were sharing our experiences about being in Egypt. Um, and she was sharing part of her experience, and it was pretty traumatic in the past lifetime that she was revisiting us. She was floating outside of her body. And she finished sharing the story, and I looked at her and I go, you're not done. She got the chills and I got the chills. She goes, well, why do you think aren't done? I go, because we need to go there together. And she got the chills and I got the chills. Like, we're going, we're going. And so we decided that we were going to go to Egypt in 2024 or in 2020. Yeah, in 2024. But we'd figure out the specifics on how that was going to happen afterwards. But we knew we had to go. And I've been twice already. Um, so we left. She went on a trip. She had to go visit her parents in another state. She was going to be gone for a few weeks. I was traveling also. And while we were waiting to coordinate when we might go, and it wasn't an if, it's a when now, I kept hearing you're going in September. I was like, all right, is it just us? Do we go with our partners? Well, it'd be cool if we invited other people who are also who can channel, who are psychic, but that have this like purity of intention, this innocence, but this mastery in the innocence also. It's like that would be amazing. It's like, yeah, but what's the purpose? It's like, okay, we go, blah, blah, blah. I've been twice. Oh, amazing. Okay, well, maybe we'll receive something from it. Wonderful. But what are we giving in return? Because it's one thing to go and to receive. And so many of us go to places and we receive, or maybe we're doing great work or whatever. It's wonderful. But to really be aware of how we are also showing up in service to what's of service to us, it's really important. And I heard very specifically to bring a group, invite 5 to 7 channels because you will all help each other raise to a higher frequency and maintain it. Have each of the channels bring in 5 to 6 people from their community. So very velvet ropish, kind of like, okay, this is very specific because of the ceremony that we are intending to be in throughout the whole journey. It's not just a sightseeing tour. And it's not just recovering past lives and healing trauma. There's something greater that's happening there. So invite that group, but then film it. And in the filming, create episodes from it. And sell those episodes to a network who can distribute it for a greater collective to receive it. So it becomes for you, for the collective as well. You're in relationship with these sites, but you're also assisting the sites in their service to their intention to humanity as well. So we've created this journey. The first one, and there's going to be several. The first one, we're traveling to Egypt. That's happening at the end of September, beginning of October. Again, we're just launching it now, 4 months before. My God, I can't believe the timing. But the filming will happen in Egypt, and then we'll open up to Peru and Uluru and Glastonbury and other places all over the world with the same intention in filming it with the hopes that now with the awareness that it's time that people are ready to receive it and that the media outlets are are willing and able to put this content out for other people to receive.
I find it fascinating that something, I mean, you and I talked about your, we both had the same desire to do a show where we traveled to different sacred sites. Years ago when we first met, I think we
Yeah.
talked about that. Isn't it fascinating how you can have that germ or that seed of an idea like 10 years ago or however long ago it was, And now they're just starting to germinate now. It's almost like we knew way in advance before things were going to happen and it was just about the right timing, but we doubt that, right? And now it seems like it's such perfect timing for you to do this. It's just amazing to me how it seems like it takes so long, but it's all perfect.
But that's the frustrating part about being so psychic. Because you can see something, you can feel like it's right there. It's like you can touch it.
Yeah.
And then, 12 years later, it's like, oh, okay, maybe there it is. We'll see. Right.
It's about time.
It is about time, exactly.
All right. Well, we're coming to the end. So I have one last thing to ask you, and that is what message would you like to leave people with today?
Oh, if you all just knew just how loved you are, if you just open your heart to really receiving that and understanding that, like truly understanding that, ah, it's profound. It's so beautiful if we could just open our eyes and our hearts to receive that. And from that, the waves that we wish to experience in our world, in our own personal world, but in the world at large also, would manifest with such great ease.
Yes.
Such great ease. I know that for sure.
Well, I love this conversation. It was wonderful. I love getting to know the you a little bit
Thank you.
more. And as always, it's always just a delight to see you and your megawatt smile because it always makes me smile too. So thank
Of
you for agreeing to be on the show. Thank you for having me on your show. It's awesome.
course.
And, here's to seeing what the next 10 years can bring now that some of these dreams are starting to finally germinate.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for wanting to know more and for asking and for providing this. It feels wonderful to be received and to know that maybe someone may want to know a little bit more about me. It's just thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Mm.
Truly, truly my pleasure. So thank you. And everyone, you can get more information on how to follow John underneath. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.